Thanks, Glenn. I don't believe anyone in this field has won the Victorian 5,000 metre championship before, so we will have a new name. And away they go. So we'll be looking at a time around 16 minutes, which is 76 second laps. So that will be the target time for the girls today, and we'll try and keep track of that. Obviously, Duncan is one of the runners with form. She won the Noosa Bolt, beating Eloise Wellings, one of the preeminent 5,000, 10,000 metre runners in Australian history.
So Charlotte Wilson from Essendon takes the early lead. The pace is not what I'd call epic, but we've only gone 200 metres, Tim.
No, they're quite steady through in 38, so that's right on 76 pace. So we see Diver looking at the watch, and she'll be happy with what she sees there. So 38 through the 200 splits, a nice settle. Let's hope that Charlotte can just keep that momentum going. We want 76, 76, 76. We want them on that 16-minute target. Championship record for this, set by the aforesaid Eloise Wellings in 2006, 1516.60. And obviously the 2006 Victorian Championships were at the MCG. So Eloise running 15:16 that night at the MCG to set the championship record. As they go through the first lap, let's have a look at the split. 78, they've drifted a little bit, so we want the pace on. And who's taken it? Looks like Diver's taken it. So the Victorian best time in this event, 15:20.78, set in 2000 by Anne Cross. Nikki Chappell, 15:38.87 in 2010. And Anna Thompson, 15:46.64 in 2006. They're the fastest winning Victorian times in this championship, which is now 25 years old. Started in 85. Diver leads. Looks like that could be Duncan to the outside of her. Wilson, Maloney, Maney, Radford, Schaaf. Looks like that might be Pompiani in the next position, followed by Jones.
Yeah, so Diver taking this out. Melissa Duncan's tucked in beautifully, getting a bit of protection. The wind has died down. You can tell that by all the bow flags being nice and stationary. So maybe the weather gods have decided at 9 o'clock they'll provide some great conditions for this Women's Championship of Victoria.
Just a few more stats on the championship. The most individual wins over the 25 or 24 previous occasions. Susan Mickelson's won it 4 times between 95 and 2003. And for those in Clubland, Box Hill, the preeminent club, 4 wins. Going back to the first win back in 1985. And then runners like Courtney Powell has won it twice, and also Nikki Chappell has been on top of the dais in the Victorian 5K.
So thanks, Bruce McAvaney, and we head back to the race. Duncan sitting nicely behind Diver, and I do mean that with the greatest respect. It's nice to get a bit of depth in relation to the previous winners in this race. There is a lot of history with Athletics Victoria across both our winter and our summer competition.
So 2 weeks ago we had big performances from both Diver and also Duncan. Duncan over 5K at the Noosa Bolt and winning that event in just on 16 minutes. Diver making a quick trip over to Japan and just throwing out a quick 2:33 marathon just to see how she was feeling, and it felt good. So bit of a difference in distance there, but they're going nicely at the moment.
Sitting nicely too, Charlotte Wilson on the inside on the plinth from Essendon. Virginia Maloney also in 4th. So again, they're not letting our leaders head too far. Duncan moves in to lead this race from Diver. And
I think we're seeing quite a move here as Duncan not only takes the lead, but she starts to stretch the pace, and this will be good for the rest of the field, and I think we'll see it start to stretch. So it's Duncan, Diver, Maloney, Wilson. So all the favourites are up there. Radford at the back of that lead pack. Then we've got a little bit of a gap, and we'll try and identify the second pack as they come through. So Duncan's already stolen a march of about 3 or 4 metres. Wilson's now making the move onto the back of Diver. Maloney's sitting back. Then we've got Maney, Pompiani and Radford. That's our lead pack. Then we've got O'Kane, Schaaf. Waters starting to make a break. She wants to get onto that lead pack if she needs to make, or if she wants to make any show of this race. And Waters is doing just that as she goes past her Geelong teammate. So Duncan's now out to a 10-metre break.
Yeah, she certainly made the decision to go out and lead the race. She set the tempo. Might be a bit too quick, too early for Diver at this stage. Charlotte Wilson, I've mentioned her a couple of times. She's positioned herself really well. So is Maloney and Maney sitting behind her. So the girls now in single file in the second pack. Of course, chasing Duncan, and they'll have to hang on. They don't want Duncan to get out too far. They're chasing the time. They really need to start moving forward and bridging that gap as quickly as they possibly can.
So now a 15-metre gap between Duncan, Diver, then Wilson, Maloney, Maney, Pompiani, and then Radford's off the back of the lead pack. Waters leads the next pack with a teammate from Geelong in O'Kane. Henrietta Lawrence also with her. Jones. Also Rule is there. And Shafe. So Diver's had another go here, Glenn. This is looking quite exciting as they go through. And that'll be the 2K mark at 6:27.
Yeah, clearly she's had some good advice and training on tactics, perhaps, Tim. We'll leave that one alone. But she's certainly starting to bridge the gap. She wants to stay as close as she possibly can. But look, for me, Wilson, also Maloney and Maney, they're not out of this yet. And look, Duncan's a very experienced runner, and conditions today reasonably okay. And hopefully Diver and the battle pack can turn this into an absolute ripper of a race.
Well, we hope so. As we see, Duncan still leading Diver, and then Maloney and Maney, Wilson, Pompiani. Radford going back into the second pack, which is now being led by O'Kane and Lawrence.
Yeah, I think sometimes we underestimate the talent in Australian middle distance running. The flexibility from road races, marathons, half marathons, and now to come out and do a 5K in preparation for, of course, the 10K championships in December. It's certainly something that hopefully our audience and everyone appreciates, particularly with this lead group pack.
So Divers have another go down that back straight. As we see, the gap to Duncan is not really stretching, but there are some gaps forming in the next pack, aren't there, Glenn?
Yeah, look, it's nearly single file out in front. We have our 6 leaders in the second pack, which we'll pick up very shortly. Again, the field's starting to stretch out, but I think our focus at the moment should be back on Duncan. Of course, Diver. Virginia Maloney still in touch. I just like her tenacity when she races. She always looks very determined. She gives everything she possibly can, and as we speak, Tim, Diver cuts into that lead of Duncan's.
So Duncan went through the halfway mark at 8:02, so that's 16:04 paces. Diver gets on to the back of her again. About a 5-metre gap then to Maloney. Then we're drifting, aren't we? So it goes back to Maney, about 15 metres back with Pompiani and also Wilson. Radford then back with Lawrence. Then we have O'Kane, Jones, Waters, also Rule. Then a gap back to Shafe. Then we have Saw and Fry.
But we head back to our lead pack. Diver has got herself within a half a body length of Duncan, and of course we saw the winner of our previous men's B race have a little bit of a rest in the midsection, Tim. Perhaps that's what the experienced Melissa Duncan is doing, but Diver now sets the pace, pulls out in front. Virginia Maloney certainly in touch. So they're our top 3.
It looks like a race in 3 now, and you've got to give it to Diver, coming off a marathon only about 10 days ago. So she's just in front of Duncan. Duncan's got a beautiful sit, but so too is Maloney, just sitting there, hasn't done too much of the work at all tonight. So Diver's taken some laps, Duncan's taken laps, Maloney's sitting in that group of 3.
Yeah, look, that's a really good point, Tim. Tactically, Virginia Maloney sat beautifully into this pack, and she'll get a bit of protection, of course. I mean, the conditions here not too bad. The wind's a headwind down the back straight.
So 9:43 at the 3K mark there, so probably a little bit slower than what Diver wants. He's really pushing towards that 16-minute mark. So through the 3K, 9:43, that indicates about a 16:10.
Yeah, look, Diver's put her head down and she's having a really good go at this. And Melissa Duncan's not giving up either. Virginia Maloney sitting nicely in third at this stage. I mean, all of them have had successful careers so far, and it's just great to see them back on the track in the shorter 5K distance.
We have 3 quality runners at the front of this field. All have worn the green and gold. All have worn it with distinction. Diver, 21st and 20th at the World Marathon Championship. That's semi-final status if you were going through the sprints. Duncan, she's an accomplished performer. Unfortunately, the Rio campaign didn't quite go to form. Then we have Maloney, 2:29 over the marathon this year and looking quite good for the Com Games, Glenn.
Yeah, look, it ceases to amaze me, the presence of these 3 runners. They're certainly leaders in each of their own disciplines, but this is a level playing field, and it's good to see Diver, come back from a marathon in Japan a couple of weeks ago, Tim, and Duncan having a crack, and also Virginia Maloney. We're used to seeing her in the cross-country events at XCR this year, and she's still not out of this race.
But we are seeing a good battle here. 4 laps to go. Pompiani's made the next move, so she's going well into the 4th position. Wilson, I can hark back to March this year. Wilson might have been about this far behind Diver with about the same amount of laps to go, and she just nabbed her on the line. So don't put the glasses down on Charlotte Wilson. She does have a big finish, but Diver might have gone up in class since then, Glenn. Yeah,
look, these two, they're playing cat and mouse, so Diver will sit comfortably with a pace for about half a lap, and then Duncan will move forward, challenge, and Diver just continually starts to keep her head in front. I think Maloney might be dropping off a little. Maybe she's just stepping back to save herself. She doesn't have a huge, big sprint finish. She's just such a strong athlete, but plenty of action to go in this women's 5K.
It's exciting, isn't it, to see these going head-to-head. Marathon runner versus 1,500-metre runner over the 5,000-metre distance. This is going to be one hell of a battle. Diver knows if she's got to win this, she just has to grind the hell out of Duncan now as we go in with 3 laps to go.
Yeah, and of course, this is the way you want to see an open state championship, particularly for women, go. They've got 3 laps to go, and it's between 2 athletes, Diver and Duncan. Maloney still in touch. She is about 15 metres behind.
And I'm liking what I'm seeing from Pompiani here. She is starting to wind it up. Wilson's just dropping back a bit. Then we've got Maney. The next bunch looks like Nia Jones. She's stepping up to these longer distances beautifully. We've got Ali O'Kane with her and also Lawrence.
Yeah, look, one of the other challenges for our leaders in front is a little bit of traffic as they lap some of our competitors in this open final. As you can see, we mentioned before in the last lap, Diver puts a foot down between probably the 350 and the 300 mark, tries to get in front, but Duncan's still with her.
Yeah, and we're about to hit that 4K mark now. So the clock stops right on 13:01 for the 4K. 16:15 pace they're on. Divers PBs are 16:20. Can we see a kick down over the last 1K, Glenn?
Yeah, look, I think these two have done a great job. They've certainly actually run off each other, paced each other really well. Diver's done most of the work on the, obviously on the inside. Melissa Duncan using her experience and tactics over this track event. And, you know, she had a bit of a rest in the last couple of laps. She's certainly stayed in touch, so anything can happen with 800 to go.
It certainly can, and we've got Diver leading with 2 laps to go. Duncan's with her, gap of 20 metres back to Maloney, another 30 metres back to Pompiani. This is going to test the resolve of Sinead Diver. We've got 2 laps to go.
Yeah, look, as we mentioned before, Diver surges forward a little, Duncan goes with her. Maloney's still in touch. I like Pompiani's run. She's preparing for the women's 10K, one to watch over the longer distance, but down the back straight, Duncan, I think, is setting herself up for a big sprint finish.
And if it goes to plan, I'd say it'd be about 600 metres out when we might see that happen. So you can see Duncan just coming to the outside, but don't give up on Diver because this girl has got one massive big heart. The girl from Balmullet, we've seen her on this track very rarely in recent years. She's been concentrating on the roads, which she's done exceptionally well in the marathon, her chosen event. So Diver leads from Duncan. The gap to Maloney is now growing, and I think Maloney's now out of it, Glenn.
Yeah, look, Virginia's run a great race, maybe too short. I'll leave that for the experts watching on Facebook Live. But look, what I love the most is that you have a well-respected middle distance and distance runner in Diver, and I hope she won't mind saying that at 40 years of age she's certainly been running exceptionally well, and she's still in this race. And Duncan, little grimace on the face with 400 to go.
They're both hurting, Glenn. They're both really hurting. The time is actually drifting as well. They've really got to put it down here. It's not going to be the time they're after. But what we're looking at here is a battle for a Victorian championship.
Yeah, look, the pace is on. And look, Tim, I know that you have a relationship with Diver, and best for the calling in the last 300. But Diver thrown out the challenge with 300 to go. Duncan on her outside is starting to wind up. Again, it's this cat and mouse down the back straight. She's certainly trying her hardest, and Duncan's not letting her get too far out.
Biased as I might be, I'm loving what I see out here because Diver's just not letting her get past. Isn't this a big heart? But Melissa Duncan, we know, has got talent. She's a 1,500 metre runner, and I wouldn't want her right there on my shoulder right now, Glenn.
And as you picked it, Tim, Duncan moves to the outside, puts the foot down, changes up a gear, as we say. She's got 145 out. Diver looks... She's still sitting in the second position, but I think she's just been out sprinted today. And let's get behind Melissa Duncan as she comes out down into the home straight. She's run a great race over this 5K.
So good running, Melissa Duncan. She'll take the gold here. Diver, brave running. She's got ahead of Maloney and got a good lead on her, so she'll get the next position. So good running, Diver. Maloney will come through next. Pompiani will take that fourth position.
And look, we'll catch up with our winner a little later during the men's 5,000 metres. But look, what a great race to watch, full of tactics, and it's certainly an educational piece for all of our young distance runners watching on Facebook Live and also here at Lakeside Stadium. So congratulations to Melissa Duncan.
So Nat Rule, Jones coming through. I think Rule will just get her. Jones, Lawrence, O'Kane, Maney coming through now, Waters. And 1 lap to go for Shania Murray. So a high quality. The clock's only just ticked onto 17 minutes, Glenn. It wasn't that long ago that women were winning this championship in 17 minutes. So, boy, has the quality of our field gone through the roof.
Let's talk about the race. You had a great battle with Sinead over the back half of that 5K. Did you expect that?
Well, my coach just said to stick to 75-second laps as long as I could. That was harder than I expected. So I noticed it was kind of slower than I wanted at the start. So I sort of took off, but then kind of I think you just lose track of how many laps you're doing, and I think I sort of underestimated how hard it was going to be. So I was glad when Sinead came and took over, and I could just sort of relax a little bit behind her. So it was a good first experience, but I think, I just need a bit more practice with it.
And we spoke earlier in the year that you control a lot of your training and a lot of your racing and so forth. So what's next for you on the racing calendar?
I think maybe we'll see how I pull up after this. Maybe the 1,500 at Zatopek, and then hopefully another 5K. I think I've just got to try a few different races and just see what I like best and what I'm best at to work out what's going to be my favourite this year.
Okay, we'll let you go warm down. The very best of luck. We'll see you at Zatopek. Congratulations to Melissa Duncan. Well done.